Megavanen, I'm Kenneth, this is the League of Cloaks, and you're watching an obligatory intro.
You're watching the League of Cloaks, so.
So in response to my video about boobs and feminism, I received the following Facebook message from one Miss Serafina Duran. Kenneth, I've been fat all my life, and with our society's obsession with skinny celebrities, I've rarely gotten any compliments on the physical. I've always been a particularly bright pupil, so everyone seemed to focus on that as I grew up. But I was never particularly concerned about my looks. Then, puberty. I assumed I just wasn't pretty and moved on. Recently, I found a new definition of beautiful. Seriously, all humans are beautiful, like our bodies are just these amazing structures of science and stuff. I love it. The problem isn't putting too much import on a person's looks, it's our view on what beauty is. If you want to read the rest of Miss Duran's message, I've posted it on Tumblr, and there's a link in the description. She goes on to talk about mastectomies, gender roles, and how even when people do compliment her on her looks, she has trouble taking them seriously. Her main point, though, I think is that last line I read. The problem isn't putting too much importance on a person's looks, it's our view on what beauty is. I also have been fat pretty much all my life, since I was 10. And I can pinpoint not only the exact moment that it started, but my motivation behind it. Not that I set out to get fat or anything, it was just a consequence of my misunderstanding. I have 3 sisters, one of which is just enough older than me to have had the physical upper hand during our childhood, and we would wrestle and stuff, and she would inevitably pin me down. Combine the natural humiliation of this position with the blatant misogyny of my upbringing, and this did cause me some emotional trauma. Getting beat by a girl I thought was the worst kind of embarrassing. Naturally, I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to show my sister, and any other challenger for that matter, who was boss. So one day at my grandparents' house, and don't ask me how this came up, I mentioned offhand that I had eaten 2 whole bowls of cereal that morning. And I remember my grandfather remarking about how I must be growing into a big strong boy if I was eating like that. See, around here we have this weird thing where we just like to shove food down people's throats, especially if they're a growing boy. And that might possibly be why we're the fattest damn state in the country. When my grandfather related my eating an extra bowl of cereal to my growing bigger and stronger, I naturally thought, aha! I found it! The key to becoming so strong that I will never be humiliated again. From that day on, I never ate less than 2 bowls of cereal for breakfast, usually 3. I just crammed my face endlessly, my child's brain telling me that this was my escape route. This was how I was going to live up to the misogynistic, illogical standard of manly pride set for me by my entire surrounding culture. I've been fat in varying degrees since then. By the time I realized the error in my logic, it was too late. I had already developed habits and lost ground. My self-esteem just plummeted to the point where when I was 30 pounds overweight, I felt like I was 75 pounds overweight, and when I actually did get to 75 pounds overweight, I felt like I was 150 pounds overweight. Right after my first growth spurt, I actually looked significantly, though only temporarily, more proportional. I didn't look bad at all. In fact, had I realized that I actually looked pretty good, had my own mental self-image been accurate enough, I might have turned it around right then and there. Low self-esteem is a bitch. And today I weigh 325 pounds. As a side note, 3 months ago I actually weighed 360 pounds, and this is perhaps the farthest I've ever come in the right direction. I'm feeling pretty good about it, but at the same time, I'm still over 100 pounds overweight. So yeah, when I make comments about fat people and how obesity relates to beauty, understand that I am coming from the perspective of a person who's been fat for years. I'm not picking on you. I'm picking on myself. That said, let's get several things on the table. 1. Fat people are beautiful. Beauty manifests itself on so many more levels than just physical appearance, and our understanding of physical beauty is severely misshapen. Keep in mind, I'm not saying obesity itself is beautiful, I'm just saying that it does not compromise whatever other types of beauty might be present in the given person. Furthermore, I've seen tons of fat people who learn to dress and carry themselves in such a way as to be very appealing. Take Rebel Wilson or Adele for that matter. Personally, I'm not very good at this yet, either because of my complete lack of any sort of sense of style, or because I just have never had much money for clothes. 2. Fat people should not be looked down on. There should be no reason at all for them to feel disliked or unwanted in social situations. Granted, some of this is produced by their own emotional insecurities rather than the actual opinions of those around them, but there is no good reason for you to dislike a fat person. Number 3, and this one is key. The truth of the latter two statements does not negate romantic preference. This is where a lot of fat people get confused, and it commonly causes us to blow the first two things out of proportion. We feel reviled because the people that we are most attracted to aren't even remotely attracted to us, and this just causes us to feel looked down on in general. Let's be honest here. Obesity is a weakness. It's unhealthy. It drags us down. It causes us to be less capable lovers because we have less stamina and we sweat by the bucket load. It decreases our physical abilities on nearly every level and causes us ultimately to die young. You are genetically programmed to mate with people that will pass on the most useful, positive attributes to your offspring. Obesity just doesn't fit in with that. As a fat person, I do hope to be treated with common human decency and not to be reviled or excluded, but it is naive for me to think that I should be viewed with the same appeal as a person who is in shape. The harsh truth of natural selection dictates that being fat makes a person less desirable to mate with, both because it is less fun and because it passes down a negative attribute. This truth is very hard to deal with, and it wreaked havoc on my psychology for a long time. But in the end, I realized that it was like a Chinese finger trap. The more I told myself that I had to lose weight, the less I was able to. In the end, I gave up. I told myself that if I were ever going to lose weight, it would have to happen naturally. Not to jinx myself or anything, but these past 3 months have been the most natural thing ever. I've been eating healthy. I've learned to drink and even crave water. And I've been going to the gym for an hour and a half after work every day and enjoying it for the most part. Like with the finger trap, you have to relax. You have to stop pulling and then you can go free. So as to your main point, Mr. Ron, I think I'm going to stick to my guns. Our cultural definition of beauty is ineffably effed up, so to speak, but I don't think that's just because of a lack of fat acceptance. I still say we care too much about people's looks, but I don't necessarily think this applies to coital preference. This preference is our genetic code's way of tricking us into weeding out our own flaws. This process takes generations and generations, but is perhaps one of the strongest elements of our evolution as a species. So those are my views on fat acceptance, and I hope you'll share yours with me either here or on Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr. That's just not nearly enough social networks. As you can see, I do read your messages, and they cause me to think quite a bit, so in the future I hope to make more videos like this one. So yeah, love you guys, and I hope none of you found this video too terribly depressing. And I will see you next time. Victory. And we would wrestle and stuff, and she would end up and oh my god, my face. That hurt more than I expected it to. Oh jeez, I think my face is gonna be bloodshot for the rest of this video.
Foreign.
Well, that's right, I've got you now, laddie. What are you doing? Don't you want to be in my video, lad? You always want to be in my video. People miss you when you're not in my video. Fat people should not be looked down upon. You are genetically programmed to mate with people that will pass on. Holy crap.